Good morning, I'm the Reverend Debbie Coyne, and this is the sermon for the fifth Sunday in Easter, based upon 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 2 to 10. Have you ever been rejected from something, directly or indirectly? Do you know what it's like to be in the line-up on the playground waiting to be chosen by a team captain and be selected last? Or do you know what it is like not to be offered the job, or to be spurned and hurt by a relationship? To have the phrase, "you are not good enough," cast over you. The readers of 1 Peter would have known this. They were classed as some of the lowest in society, rejected by everyone. They were also Christians, living in a Roman society filled with secular gods and Jews who despised them, viewed with suspicion and hostility. So I wonder how they felt in receiving this letter from Peter, a leader in their faith who knows this rejection himself, is living it too, and knows the importance of the words he speaks. Amazing words of encouragement, explaining to them that Jesus, the one in whom they have decided to believe, the Saviour of the world, God incarnate, was rejected, just like them. I can't help but hear those words and remember the phrase we heard only a few weeks ago: "Crucify him! Crucify him!" The crowd's cries, the crowd's rejection. Or of Peter, the author of this letter, stating 3 times, "I do not know him." Have you ever held a plain, boring-looking stone, just to find inside it are crystals and the most beautiful patterns? This is what I picture when Peter describes Jesus as a cornerstone. To the outside world, it would be easy to mistake him as a prophet, as something simple, as human but without his godliness. But for those who choose to believe, who get to know him, he is precious. He is unlike any other stone in the world. He is the living stone, the cornerstone on which our lives should be built. Peter is saying that when we come to Christ, acknowledging all of who he is, we are welcomed, as we are, into his building work, the church. As we spend time with him, we are formed into his likeness and begin to become living stones ourselves, and built by God into spiritual houses. We, like Jesus, are no longer rejected, but welcomed. We have a home. We have a place of belonging. I wonder what you fear God, to your mind, might reject you because of. Thoughts you have? Past you've lived? Issues around anger, alcohol, health, or something else? What is it you feel categorises you as unworthy? That you believe means you are not fully accepted to God? Because this passage is saying to us, in Jesus, none of that matters. We are welcomed, accepted, and loved. I'm going to say that again. We are welcomed, accepted, and loved. Jesus sees us, and he loves us anyway. The old saying goes, if there'd only ever been you in the world, Jesus would still have come. This is your truth. Own it. In owning it, you accept that you are a living stone, basing your life on Jesus. It has not escaped my attention the irony that we are not meeting in our church buildings, and yet here is a passage about stones, building bricks, written by a guy whose name means rock. And while the phrase spiritual houses is language used by Jesus to refer to the temple of God, the entire point of this passage is to show the church is the people of God. The stones are living. God's temple is the corporate community of those who believe in Him, us. My friend pointed out this week, before the pandemic, although we were not persecuted for our faith, unlike many across our world, we did live in a society that did not even know, never mind recognise God, and who thought the church was irrelevant, exclusive, dare I say it, even dying. Then last Sunday, the Guardian newspaper reported British public turn to prayer as 1 in 4 tune into a religious service. 1 in 4! That's amazing statistics! I don't know who lives in your neighbours' houses, but if there are 2 adults in a house on either side of yours, that means at least one of them is tuning into a service today, or at some point during the week. That's 25% of the population. And a third of those are people in my generation, 18 to 35, who have never attended church, except maybe for the odd festival service or occasional office, baptism, wedding, funeral. We are the generation that were not taken to church, the generation that are missing from our congregations. Another article states 1 in 20 have started praying during the crisis, which suggests that people are turning to faith for support amid uncertainty and despair. The Church of England has said that unexpectedly high numbers of people are tuning into online or broadcast services, and 6,000 people phoned a prayer hotline in its first 48 hours of operation. It is clear, church buildings or not, the living stones of the Church of England, that's you and me, are still being church, because ultimately we are the church. As long as we have Christ as our cornerstone, we too become his living stones, transformed into spiritual houses to be a royal, holy priesthood. This does not come without challenge, though, does it? We follow Christ as participants, not spectators. We have a fantastic opportunity, as the article suggests, to share God's love, joy and hope to a people who clearly are seeking something more than what they currently have, know or see. And if you are one of those people tuning in this morning, get in touch with us. We would love to speak with you and support you at this time. We need to keep our eyes and ears peeled for them. We need to pray God guides us into their paths. We as the church, as a holy people, have a call and a duty to offer of our time, our prayers, our praise and our hearts, not only to God, but also those around us. We do not just come to church on a Sunday to sing hymns and pray prayers as the sum total of our worship. Instead, we offer ourselves, our whole lives, our life as church, as an act of spiritual worship, as we engage with our communities, helping the vulnerable, tackling social justice, and especially during this time, praying, sharing and caring for those across our villages, inviting in those who feel rejected, sharing with them the truth. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvellous light. So let us show those in our society around us that although our buildings may be closed, the church is very much alive.